Okay, we're live. I think. Yep. The red light is on. The numbers are clicking away. I got a voice. Yep. I think we're live. All right. And I'm trying to place the mic and the. I'm sorry. I'm trying to place the camera in the best place, and still not get the background. Yeah, it's a work in progress. Thank you for being here. This is the Schumann Resonances with Verde. I'm your host, Verde Agosto. Thank you for being here. And if you're new, welcome. Please remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe if it's not too much difficulty for you. Please hit the notification bell and select all, or you will likely get none of the notifications. And that's just how it works with YouTube with their algorithm, that you have to be there regularly, or you're not going to be included in the party. Sorry about that. I don't make the rules. So with that said, thank you for being here. There's a couple other videos I've done before this. I've already done the introduction. I've done the one before that, and before on the 2012 calendar and the long count and all of that. And I've described what it is. So I will hopefully have the link in the description so you can go and watch those other two videos. And just at least so you can get the introduction and get a sense of what I've already talked about going into this. Okay, I think we're ready. I'm adjusting this on the fly. Yeah, before I start, I just need to say this, that I'm in the process of moving the studio. I've already done some videos. I've said a little bit about this. I'm in the process of moving. I get to, break down the studio in a little bit. So I'm kind of moving things as it is. And I have to reset the camera kind of each time I redo a video. And so kind of this is, not ready for prime time, on the move, on the spot, DJ extraordinaire, live, definitely live performances here. Um, so I've already done the video, like I said. So I got to do this. This is one of the these ones here are one of the ones that I get to do before I just totally shut down the studio and move everything around. So I got to get through this. And what I'll do is I'll kind of introduce this particular section, and then I'll play some music and then get into it. I want to, even though I want to move on, move through this. This is going to be longer, a little bit longer of a section than the other one. This video is probably going to be closer to 2 hours, just guesstimating, because of everything I got to get through. So I'll start out with music. It'll give everyone a chance to get into the room, get the chat all set up, and then I'll get into the material. With that said, basically, before I get too far afield into the bigger picture of what I'm doing, uh, of the all of this, and if you've seen the other videos, you understand the big picture, what the long count is, what the big picture is. We're going through a reset. So before that, I want to give a little bit of history on how the Mayans kind of came about, because they were lost in the jungle. Basically, since 800 AD, they were lost in the jungle, and then somehow magically everything gets re-picked up once again. So we're going to talk about John Lloyd Stephens and Frederick Catherwood, pioneers of modern archaeology. As I had it up, hold on. It's the book. This is obviously a book I'm referring to, and so we're going to talk a little bit about their work, because they're one of they're the pioneers to this. So let's get into some music. Uh, like I said, I've as I've said before, the videos are an Aronmix vehicle, so I would, I'm happy being a DJ playing an hour's worth of video with just him, going on with the music. So, I at one point I was like, oh, is it too much music? I'm like, no, I would rather just play the music and not talk. And so, all right. So, yeah, so it's a smoke break length. So if you got it, smoke it. I'm gonna, like I said, I do these kind of relatively long interviews, and I'm sorry, these relatively long introductions to give people a chance to get in the room, 15, 20-minute introductions, just to give people a chance to get in the room, because they don't get the notifications until 20 minutes into the video. So 20 minutes, half an hour. So that's sort of what it is. Even though I want to make these short, this is going to be a premiere. It's going to be a long video. I don't care. I got to play music. I don't care. So whatever. I'm playing music. I'm going to turn my face off. I'm going to smoke them up, and then I'm going to come back into this. So whatever, do what you want. I'll meet you back here in a little while. Oh, let's turn this off so you can hear it. That's good. You're the one for me. With this new love we found, keeps my feet up off the ground. Far away. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Love for you, my dear, takes away my everything to fly away. You just don't know what you do to me, but I'm not the same. No, I'm not the same. No, I'm not. You're the one for me. You're the one for me. You're the one for me. The one for me.
shine. Checking that I got home when I've been out all night. Hold up in every door in the dark, in my light. Yeah, I never feel alone. Give me love, give me life. Give me love, give me life. Give me life, give me love, give me life. Give me life, give me love, give me life. Give me life, give me love, give me life. Give me life, give me love, give me life. Give me life, give me love, give me life. Give me life, give me love, give me life. Give me life, give me love, give me life. Give me life, give me love, give me life. Give me life, give me love, give me life. Give me life, give me life. Give me life. All the little things that you did, you did. Tell me there's no other boy. You did, you did. I'll keep you in my heart, although we're apart. Because of all the little things that you did, you did. All the little things that you did, you did. Tell me there's no other boy. You did, you did. I'll keep you in my heart, although we're apart. Because of all the little things that you did, you did. Give me life, give me life. Give me life, give me love, give me life. Give me life, give me love, give me life. Give me life, give me love, give me life. Give me love, give me love, give me love, give me life. Give me life, give me love, give me life. Give me life, give me love, give me life. Give me life, give me love, give me life. Give me love, give me life, give me
Okay, we're back. We're back. All right, hold on. Okay, now we're back. Hold please. Okay, we're back. All right, we got to learn something. All right, get off the table, off the chairs. Put your thinking caps on. Time to go to work. All right. Okay, so it's you, me, and Stephens and Catherwood. Um, every time I see that word Catherwood, I think I have a catheter. But anyway, um, Stephens and catheter. Um, so yeah, they're two guys that did stuff. They were famous. They wrote books and whatnot. What they do? They're the ones that are most largely associated with the rediscovery of the Mayan civilization. They did the most groundwork uh, in archaeology of kind of opening up the the um, the areas that had been taken over by the jungle. So ultimately, they died from malaria that they caught, malaria and other diseases, stuff that they had caught from the jungle. Eventually, it took their lives. They lived for a while with it, and it just became increasingly more difficult. Um, so so I'm introducing Stephen and Catherwood. Um, uh, because they're the first ones who have the the most association with the Mayan civilization, the reintroduction, rediscussion, rediscovery, whatever of the Mayan civilization. All right, so and I had shown you, it's the picture of their actually, hold on, oh please. So this is the hey, a little better picture for you. I love their architecture. Their monoliths and megaliths and all that their shit. Um, so these two guys, Stevens and John Lloyd Stephens, who was born in 1805. He was a New York lawyer, and I'm reading this from the epigram from the Amazon review. Actually, no, it's Koch's words. This is from the preview of the book. Coke, Koch, Koch, Coke, whichever. Um, Catherwood was an architect and a renowned topographical artist. So the two of them worked well together. One was a writer, the other was an artist, and he did the illustrations in the manuscript and the books that Stevens would write. These adventurers endured many life-threatening obstacles in a determined effort that led to the discovery of nearly 50 forgotten Mayan cities buried deep in the jungles of South America and Mexico. Stevens and Catherwood worked together with their team to explore the better part of the Mayan civilization, which was still the Mayan civilization which was still left at that time. At the beginning of their quest, the last explorer was Hernan Cortez around 1511, who came in contact with the Mayan civilization, or what's left of it at that point. Cortez didn't explore the Mayan countryside. It was all covered by jungle, right? So he didn't really report anything. He just kept going to Mexico. By that time, the jungle had taken over the encampments. Whereas, on the other hand, Stevens and Catherwood did explore a lot of the structures that were still left at that point. Apparently, by 800 AD, the majority of these complexes had been abandoned. Not destroyed, but abandoned. And so that's my words there. All right. So in quotes, or I've given it in quotes. See in quotes. So this is I'm quoting the book here. A society like this did not exist in the annals of lost prehistory, for which historical dating had to be carried out by scientific means. By deciphering the written inscriptions and using the precise calendaring system of the Maya, we have established the chronology of historical events with some exactitude. Or actually, sorry, I'm not quoting their book. I'm quoting The Advanced Knowledge of Mayan Civilization by Randall Lopez. Sorry. After they were rediscovered, their unique writing style remained an unsolvable puzzle. Brilliant epigraphers had to break the code for which the code for it to become readable. A historic novel unfolds as the chronology of their events, epic uh, epic adventures, and scientific messages unfold. Throughout history, the world beca- throughout history, the world has become aware of the accomplishments and thoughts of this civilization. And that's Advanced Knowledge of the Mayan Civilization by Randall Lopez. So that's not uh, um, it's not the book by Peter Koch. So, and this is my writing here. Some people dismiss the accomplishments as some people dismiss the Mayans. The calendar means nothing. It's fine. All right. As we saw, the calendar extends all through Mesoamerica. It's not just the Mayans themselves. So it's not just them, first and foremost. So the accomplishments go past the calendar itself. All right. They're looking at the broader picture. As I pointed out the last video, they had maize, a variety of corn, 8,000 BC, 10,000 years ago, they had a type of corn. The numerical zero, their observational system in general that allowed for them to be able to pinpoint precisely when these things happen and all of this, and then some, and then more so. So it is such that some people dismiss these accomplishments of their civilization as meaningless, right? Because this is something that happened in history. There's this kind of mindset of dismissing what happened in history as barbaric. Well, we build, we're standing on the shoulders of these giants, but it's still meaningless anyway. We've evolved from them. They're barbaric people. They didn't have computers, whatever. And among other things, that they're bloodthirsty and barbaric, and they have their rituals on the ritual sacrifices, and that's what people would know of it. And, all right, that's fine. But I accept that this is true of all humanity, that the race is fairly bloodthirsty and barbaric as a race of people. And it's my humble opinion that legalized abortion is kind of bloodthirsty, right? If you're going to use those terms. Yet worse, it's euphemized, it's made okay societally behind scientific rhetoric or some scientific term or some euphemistic term like a fetus. It's not a living human, it's a fetus, right? And it's not until it's born, like it's not alive, blah, blah, blah. These kind of things. And so you justify being able to murder or calling it murder by, not using those terms, but some other, euphemized phrase. By using the rhetoric, humans can and do justify anything and can and do condemn anything, right? Humans have this ability to pick and choose and think what they want to and rationalize whatever behavior. And it's what humans do. The fact that they had such an advanced calendaring system based on observational data is something that's not dismissible, especially when it's more accurate than what we have now. So I've talked about the calendars, I've talked about that. I think we will be going into, in time, we'll be going into more advanced stuff. And that should be 2.2. All right, so time for music. We talked about briefly. We talked about just so you can have an acquaintance with them too, right? Stephens and Catherwood, right? Just so you can. There's also another character in there called Maudsley. He's another explorer. I'm not going to go into him too much because I wanted to spend a little more time on Thompson than on the other guy, because the early explorers didn't do a lot of the translating that we have now, right? Once it was open up, right, there was kind of phases. You have to look at it as different epochs, different phases. You get the first guys go in, they explore everything, they map it out, and then the next group, they get permission to go in, and then they kind of start doing a more exhaustive survey of it. They have more information. The people, the scientific community has more, after the first ones publish their work, there's more scientific interest generated, obviously. All right. So, we're going to play some music, like 5 minutes worth of music, and then come back in and we will start start the bulk of what's really sort of more important so much than the other two, right? That was sort of an introduction. Thompson, they talk more about Thompson, and this is kind of where we're going with this, because he's Thompson was an ethno-historian, ethnobiologer. I'm not even sure what all he was, but he gets a lot of credit. He's well known, fairly well known, for his work in translating a lot of this kind of stuff. So we're going to go into him shortly. First, going to play some music, gonna dance, going to have a good time, and I will see you on the other side. Okay, let's bring it back. Come on home. Good mix. I love this mix. All right. Hold on. Okay, I'm back. All right. All right. I don't know. Maybe this won't be a two hour long video, but it's at least going to be an hour. It's probably going to be over an hour. Um, the music makes it, like, all right. So the music is included in there as part of the time. And if I didn't play so much music, the overall length of the video wouldn't be so long, but then it wouldn't be so enjoyable. So whatever. All right. So who is Eric Thompson? Was it Eric Thompson? Was born in 1898, a leading English Mesoamerican archaeologist, ethnohistorian, and epigrapher. All right, so these all people are of the Darwinian age. You got to remember that. All right, so it's the same thing with the other two, Stephens and Catherwood, that they're born around the turn of the century, last century. They're millennials from last millennia. Millennials. It's kind of funny to think about it, Last millennia millennials. Wow. Millennia is 1,000 years. Millennials. 2000, year 2000. Centennial. I think they're not millennial, they're centennials. Which somehow almost sounds worse. So, all right. So anyway, enough of this folderol. In the name of the book is in the ancient Maya, the rise and fall of the rainforest civilization. Arthur Demarest characterizes Thompson as engendering a traditional view of Maya society, or essentially one of gentlemen scholars of the earlier part of the 20th century, right? And so it's important to kind of put out there the time frame that these guys were working and translating the work, translating the pictures of the glyphs of the Mayan civilization into an English script, an English language that's consumable by the intelligentsia who's never seen the glyphs. This perspective stems from an elitist tradition, is biased since it presents the Maya myopically. Additionally, Thompson presented the Maya as practicing slash and burn agriculture, since it fit well into models that presented the Maya as dispersed people. So Thompson is working on a narrative, establishing a narrative based on what he's finding. Sorry. Thompson depicted the Maya public life as being solely centered in theocratic ceremonial centers dedicated to worship of great cycles of time and celestial bodies, a view that is now considered an oversimplification. And quite honestly, the importance of which cannot be understated. With the help of Dr. A.V. Kidder, Thompson in 1943 wrote a trial survey of the southern Maya area, describing sites such as Que Min Al Juya, I can't even pronounce these, I'm going to butcher them, Miraflores and Copan. The article by Thompson assumes that the Maya were ultimately peaceful people since they lacked apparent defenses. He again stresses the widespread abandonment of ceremonial centers. He refers to the decline in arts and architecture as balkanization, a period which he views as experiencing political disintegration. And I put this ellipsis here to indicate that this isn't all one solid text. I kind of went through and picked out the most relevant things to what I'm talking about here. Cherry picked. Yes, I cherry picked the facts from the research that I wanted you to see. No, I'm not going through a whole bunch of words that sort of don't kind of may sort of kind of relate, but don't sort of, but they may or may not. Just so you can see whether or not they do. I don't know. Again, I'm picking through. I'm culling through what's here, so you yourself don't have to. All right. All right. Although Thompson has contributed a considerable amount of research to Mesoamerica studies, his interpretations have been proven to be flawed or inconsistent with new investigations. He maintained a venerable air of descent. He maintained a venerable air of dissent in the archaeology community. Archaeologist Jeremiah Epstein posed that Thompson was wrong in his characterization of the Maya water transportation. He may have based his analysis of misinterpreted Spanish translations of the Mayan word for sail. All right. And so they go into a bunch of why and wherefore that would be the case. And I'm going to save you from that. And that's what these ellipses are for. Moreover, archaeologist Tracy Ardren feels that Thompson appeared to have made the mistake in conflating or merging several cosmology entities into one. So this is a new paragraph to talk about. He famously misinterpreted the Mayan moon goddess Ixchel, I'm not sure how you pronounce it, basing his research again on mistranslated Spanish texts. He believed, as modern Mayan do now, that the moon goddess is the wife of the sun god. Ardren's article claims Thompson interpreted the different glyphic phrases or names associated with the younger set as various tides for the same goddess, a deity he had already assumed to represent the moon. Ardren recognizes that the concept and all-encompassing unifying female entity is directly influenced by Western philosophical movements and androcentric bias. Ooh, that's a mouthful. More ellipses. Thompson wrote about hieroglyphic writing in great detail. In systems of hieroglyphic writing in Middle America and methods of deciphering them, the famed Mayanist critiqued some of the historical inconsistencies associated with Diego de Landa's informants. He warned other archaeologists that the translation may be inaccurate since the informant, through personal agencies, may have intentionally deceived the Spaniards, or the informant did not supply material for reading Mayan text using symbolic systems because none existed at the time. He also scathingly claimed that Norazov overwhelmingly misidentified Lanza's hieroglyphs, adding to confusion. However, it was later proven that many of Norazov's speculations that the Mayan language was phonetic and ideographic were inaccurate. All right. So, phonetic is like sound it out, speak it out. And ideographic has to do with the ideograph. I should remember this from my linguistics class. an idea graph is it's a picture of something that's you're trying to picture something, right? Idea. You're identifying something. I'm not sure if that helps you out any. May or may not help. Okay. Further discussed are Nehuatl. I'm not sure if I know I'm not pronouncing that right. The Nahuatl language and writing, where he began reasserting that the Maya did not have a phonetic language. Instead, he thought they only identified specific places and people. He thought, wait a minute. He thought that their writing had strong implications between good and bad. Furthermore, he characterized the pre-conquest Mexican codices as having a form of rebus writing. And a rebus is like a picture. You put pictures together and you form a word, basically. I think Heffenreffer, or one of the beers, has the rebus, put it all together and you come up with a word on their bottle cap. Thompson also expressed interest in the divinatory significance of the Dresden and Madrid codices. All right, so a lot of this I got from Wikipedia, but Thompson also has a book himself that he wrote that the history of the Mayan civilization. All right. So we're at a stopping point, I think. All right, so let's play some music, kill some more of the time. We'll make sure it goes over an hour.
This is that song that you've been waiting for all night long. Time to put 'em up in the air. Something like that. Not just talking about the people right here, not just the people in the front. I'm talking about the people in the back. We're gonna get it on, everybody up in here. Something like that. Clap your hands. Stomp your feet. Let's get down, everybody. In this summertime heat. Let's do it. Come on.
Yeah, a little bit.
These are from my garden.
Oh, thank you. Aaron, say hi to the camera.
Hi.
And that's Aaron. I'm playing your one of your mixes. This is the
That's new.
yeah.
My new ones.
Yeah, one of your new ones, yes. It's still warm. Well, that was unexpected. I'm glad that he came into the picture and waved. That's Aaron. He's my DJ, God's right-hand DJ. He'll be leading us through the gates of hell to release the DJs who are caught and musicians who are caught in bad contracts and wound up in hell before we totally reset and blow this pop stand, this popsicle gin joint. So behind me, hold on, let me turn around so I can see behind me. So that's the what you call it, the cover for Thompson's book right there. And the guy I had, I think I said that, was Thompson himself. So I had before I go on, let me just kind of encapsulate. Actually, hold on. I had to change the time. I just noticed that it wasn't 95 seconds. All right. So, upward and upward. So I named this subsection "Who Done It." I don't know. I couldn't come up with a better phrase than that. But we do have a question. We do have kind of mystery at hand of where did the information come from, and we're not looking at it as, you know, like, oh, how do I say this? These great myths that they have, the creation myths, are there to guide us. And I mean, we're not allegedly going to be, no one's, you always hear, oh, well, I'm not going to be there at the end of the world. Well, maybe you're not. Maybe you will. Someone is going to be, right? And they give us directions on how to handle the end of the world scenarios. You know, the end comes like a thief in the night. Be ready all the time. Be vigilant all the time. You don't know when the end is going to come. And, you know, essentially you should live a moment at a time. Who knows how much time, your time life fully you have here that you're going to live. You know, you might have 72 years. You might have 50 years. You might have 68 years. You might have 35. I don't know. It's so in that sense, it's important to be ready all of the time. And so if there's one thing that the tale of the Mayans can tell, and these other huge civilizations that were there and now they're vanished, can tell us, is that if they were that big and they vanished without a trace, what about us? The jungle came and returned it ate up the stones. Eventually they're there underneath it, but our buildings aren't anything like those, with huge interlocking blocks. That's not what our structures are. The rust can take the steel, and they're just our structures are much, much, much different than the Mayan architecture. And I think maybe at one point I'll show you what makes it different. And in fact, I'm pretty sure I do need to, somewhere in there. I'll slip it in there, of because I'm sure a lot of people probably haven't seen the megalithic block structure, and the way that these are put together with these interlocking blocks. That's absolutely mind-boggling. Um, and I think it's important for people to see that, because a lot of people probably are not as familiar with this as I am. I mean, I have to be, I've studied these throughout the course of my life because I've been fascinated by it. I've had to do manual labor and worked with stones and blocks and bricks and all of that stuff, moving them around and doing manual labor. I certainly have had enough experience with rocks and bricks and blocks and all of that stuff to get an understanding of how it is and how it works, and what it doesn't do and what it can't do and what it won't do. For us here now, by the construction techniques and technological advancement, so-called advancements that we have, that's not really more advanced in a lot of ways, because even with that stuff, we still can't explain how those blocks and bricks were made, that and interlocked to make those structures, right? Uh, it just is beyond. It's mind baffling, mind log jamming, on how it could happen, how they made these, how they do them, right? Uh, and I study, and I'm fascinated by even the research by people who claim to have figured out how they do that, and what you come up with. And I can see, in some cases, how when people say, "Oh, they did it this way or that way," one of which is a geopolymer solution that they poured these molds into place, and blah blah whatever. Uh, so it's fascinating, because it's like, well, you have some good theories, but it's like you're still limited, and you're still not able to figure out really how they really did this. Some good theories that would actually work in other applications, and it's fascinating enough, but it still doesn't explain this here of what's going on. Um, so that's part of one of the things that's fascinating about this to me, is the architecture and the stonework and the masonry work and the walls, all of that, the construction of it, these huge monoliths and megaliths that also appear in various fashions similarly around the rest of the world as well, right? And this is not a small point that I would say as well, that it appears, these interlocking block construction appears around the world, on just so happens on nodal grid points and blah 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 blah. Like there's a whole world of study just on those themselves. All right, anyway, so with all of that said, we're now over an hour. So I named this Whodunit because we're presented with a question, presented with a mystery, and even if there's kind of two or three kind of prongs to this. That first off is, who is it that made the transliteration that the world is going to it ends and a new one begins at these long point ending cycle points. All right, and what was literally, what does it literally say, or what did they literally originally mean? Well, how did you phrase that? How did you figure that out? And I think that another prong here is that perhaps we really do actually need to consider that the universe, if we don't look at the entirety of the whole universe as ending, but like, for example, if you consider that our sun does go nova periodically, that even this is a controversial issue, it's like, well, that creates a huge renewal and rebirth. It's not destroyed completely, but the world as you know it is destroyed, and you have to build anew from what's left, from the ashes of what's left there. So there's a lot of wiggle room in these translations and transliterations for what do you mean? What are you actually talking about? When you say the universe, do you mean the entire totality of the universe, or just our known universe being the solar system and that which is attached to the galactic sun, the central sun, right? Not anything greater than for the Milky Way, the center of the Milky Way. And if you were to call that the universe, what's lost in translation, if that was to be the universe as we know it, then that in itself is pretty significant. However, like that is, like that does present, some interesting alternatives to what is more reasonable, with the understanding that suns go nova. It's rebirth, like the phoenix, the myth of the phoenix may not really be a myth, and that may really be a testament to the sun going nova from the ashes. Right? I don't know, but it's certainly it's giving me a lot to think about. So you know, who is it that comes up with this stuff? So my guess of who, right? My first guess, the most likely culprit, suspect, if you will. Well, I don't mean to say he's guilty of anything. Uh, my guess of who was the person who made the translation that the world would end in December 2012 is someone who may not have had a rudimentary idea of the delicate balance of recurring cycles of Earth and the galaxy as a whole, and yet the Mayan scholars did. And I'm only emphasizing here that they had a strong sense of the cyclical nature of time and of the universe as a machine, as an organized machine. It's not pointless. It's not meaningless. There was a definite sense of purpose behind it that they knew and they had that these Western scholars didn't have, right? And you got to look at it as they all had a name and a personality, which the Western version doesn't have in their narrative to explain, the whys and the wherefores. A grander personality. I'll put it that way. A greater personality. If I were to look at the life here on Earth in terms of a continuous straight line from birth to death as a linear progression, then I am likely not to ever see the cyclical nature of the universe operating as an actual machine. And what we're talking about here, Aaron just came in and gave me a flash drive with a brand new mix. So I think um, I'm gonna play something from that on the outro. I think, why not? Um, the newest. I'll give you the newest, the brand spanking newest Aronmix. Uh, he came in at 107.07. I can't help it, right? The gods have spoken. Yeah. So they looked at this, the Mayan culture and all of that, and they had a much different view of this, with multiple higher deity personalities who were there guiding and helping the humans, and so uh, who were here as a steward, right? And like that's, I think it's important for me. Let me just say this, that the thing of believing that there is something greater out there is that regardless of whatever your experience, and you might think it's my personal experience, that it helps me to act as a steward for the planet, right? That it's not mine to do anything with. I'm a guest here. There is a God who's in charge of this. It was it was operating this long before I got here, and there's no reason why I need to take advantage of this and make anything worse, right? It's sort of I don't own anything, right? I mean, anything I put my name on, the government comes in, they want to tax it anyway, right? What do I really truly own? I can own something if I pay the government extortion fees on it, but right. I need to be a steward of property. Ultimately, it's not mine. Ultimately, it all goes. So one of the lessons of the Mayans and these other cultures that were huge, whatever, and then they're just memories written about in a book somewhere, is that they had their time. They were huge. The Spaniards, the conquistadors, they were huge. France had a time where they had world explorers, right? Just like all of it at one point. And yet, like all of these cultures, they overextend their boundaries and then they get cut back. And it's the same thing with the US. Like we just, like I'm here, I'm in the middle of this. I can't help. As little as I want to be involved in this, I can't help it. But because I am one of the people who live in this country. So, we had a good run, but eventually a country overextends its bounds, tries to, take over, unduly take over, and there you go, conspicuous consumption, and it spreads itself too thin. It can't take care of its homeland and the empire abroad, and everyone else gets a little bit peeved off at what you've been doing in the interest of trying to keep, trying to uh, um, hold on to what you have. And oh yeah, it's a ever repeating cycle. So anyway, so there's the cycle, the repetitive cycle. So it's one of the things that the Mayan cultures knew, and they understood that at some point this is going to get destroyed and rebuilt from the ashes of it, and hopefully it'll be maybe a little better than the last time. I don't know. I won't hold you to nothing, but hopefully, right? Is that a prayer? I don't. Hopefully. And if it is a machine, the cyclical nature, it presupposes an innate, inherent, built-in intelligence behind the design. And there's a point that I make, that perhaps the doomsday prophecy didn't come true because it was mistranslated from a long gone language and a culture. And they'd abandoned their civilization a millennia or two before Thompson had arrived. So they, like, you can't ask them now what they really meant, and what did they mean? Was it just the galaxy? Was it whole the the Brahmins, Kalpa, the breath, the intake. One intake cycle of Brahma is a Kalpa, I believe, if I'm understand this correctly, a huge, massive amount of time that, it's created, it rises and it falls. And there's a period that it's here, it was created, and then it just eventually gets destroyed. Right? And so that's one of the things that has to be understood, that uh, the cycle returns. The circle always, gets completed, right? Um, so, uh, so maybe the doomsday prophecy was misunderstood relative to the Earth itself, at least as far as the exacting time that we're talking about, right? All depends on how you kind of look at this, and you see the ending of the clock as a opening of a doorway or a portal, perhaps, which is not instantaneous. It's just, okay, that's when this, the old calendar ends, and now begins, like the new, and we rebuild from here, which means it all gets destructed uh, to be rebuilt. Like, that's one of the things that's difficult about here that I'm not fond of, is having to do a lot of guesswork and, like, sure, I know what I know, and then you come across some new information, some different shit, and it's like, oh man. And that's why it's hard to kind of teach an old dog new trick, is because it took so long to figure out, to know what you know, and then get to be placed with new information. It's like, I don't want to have to think about this, like, it took so long to figure out, to know what I knew. Now I gotta unknow that and figure out some new stuff. It's just very difficult. It's one of my opinion, one of the worst parts about being here, is not knowing, trying to know, and then going down all these blind alleyways of knowledge and half truths, and just totally not relevant, but interesting enough, maybe. And I don't know. It's like, universe, just tell me what I want to know. Don't make me have to chase after this and run after it. Uh, it's part of one of the things of doing this, is asking for help. Right? Please just make this easy for me to understand, and please make the information there for me that I should know, and let me able to pare down, and figure out, use my discernment to know what I need to know, and to help figure out what's important to know, and help me to, integrate what I already know, or dismiss it completely if it's not in any way, shape, or form useful for my benefit and my end goal of, getting to where I'm trying to go. And honestly, knowledge just for the sake of knowing stuff may not be useful, right? It may not be one of the most useful kind of things, right? Just having stuff in your head occupying space may be clutter, So I think it's important to be discerning about what you take in, and be able to tie it in with what's already in the head, and organize, keep things organized. It's really important. Is it's not just having the information there, but it's also organizing. Really important. All right, so uh, as we see, Thompson's contemporaries question whether or not he had a culture-bound preoccupation, in interpreting the observational data. So they're just mentioning, like I'm only saying this not to get on the case of Thompson, but simply I'm bringing him up because he's the most well-known, one of the most well-known translators, interpreters, ethnograph, whatever of this. And so the first person there usually gets the notoriety and whatever. So I'm mentioning the fact that, there's some wiggle room in these interpretations in case you didn't already know. Right? I've been continually mentioning to one to beware of the rhetoric and the words themselves that are just there held together by the power of the words. And you by this understood definition, you may not actually be able to understand it, or it's just you use it a person use it in context so much that it just seems to make sense, or else it's a word with its own definition, and then like a lot of times people they accept, well, that's not the standard definition isn't like that. Don't be so traditional. They've accepted it's not the standard definition, and they've gotten on your case for suggesting that there's that it should have the standard definition, and there's a lot of psychology that's involved in this, kind of changing the field, and that's part of what the thing of understanding what's so not innocuous, what's so important about the details is where if you're looking to understand what's going on, where you got to get through the rhetoric. That's important. It's just the most important thing to say. I mentioned that before, and no matter where I say it, how many times I say it, you got to know what the real words that you're using mean, and don't just use them because you think that there's it's this new definition, we're new words, we're describing them in some bizarre way or whatever. It's like don't just go for that. Don't just go along with the stream of rhetoric, stream of words and dialogue, just because it seems to be coming from positivity or a positive source or whatever. Give it some consideration, give it some thought, listen, pay attention to what is being said, that to make sure you know and really truly know what the words are, what they mean, and what the context that they're being used are. Just because you know a word over here doesn't mean someone is using it in the right context over there. So that's really important in this and understanding this of using the right context for these things. Right? So that said, it's important to mention that in the transliterations of the end of the world scenario, never once does Thompson claim that the end of the world will be coming through a great solar flash. Right? It's important to understand that. It's important to note that the notion of the great solar flash is one of the common ideas passed around in ascensionist circles. Along with the closing of the great year comes the renewal period, and that's where we're at, right? This is one of the things that, I'm of the belief that the Mayans weren't that far off in talking about, the rise and fall, the destruction and creating anew of the long count of the great cycle. And it's one of the things that is important to mention, if I can succinctly and artfully weave it in here, of the ascensionist narrative of the great solar flash and what that means, and how that relates to this, ending of our known universe, which is just the solar system here, as far as I'm concerned. I will interpret that how I want. Thank you, and I am. Thank you. I can those two can kind of tie in together very nicely. The ending of the world, we're at that point now, the sun's pulsating, like it's changing color. Like there's a lot of complex factors that are going into making this actually kind of a reality. And in the ascensionist cycles and circles, they talk about this great solar flash. Well, what does that mean? Quite honestly, in the end analysis, it means everyone's going to get whacked on the planet, regardless of whatever your belief is. Physiologically, it's going to be the same for people if and unless you've been grounding. Your belief itself isn't going to save you if you haven't been doing the physiological work that comes with grounding yourself and grounding your energy into the planet, et cetera, et cetera. This time around, we discussed a proposed plan that humanity as a whole will be spiritually evolving. This process of necessity starts on the physical level before any spirit body growth can happen. There's no spirit body growth, nor progress, nor evolution, nor progression without attention and resolution to the physical maladies first. So whatever your physical problem is, without you addressing it, you can't move on any further than that. So move the camera here. All right, so I promise, let's look what's on the Aronmix. Hold on. Okay, I found one. When I put the memory stick in the computer, I messed up the camera and whatever. All right, so I'm using a different camera anyway. So it's at the end of the video. It's a fun way to exit. This is a really good mix. And so this is actually from today. Apparently, he's got the date 10/23, so it's today. This is right, fresh, spanking right off the press. So anyway, on that cheery note, I think we're out of here. Okay, we're going out shortly, about 3 minutes or something. And thank you for being here. Uh, Hold on, before we go though, pause the music. Please don't stop the music. Right. So, in the background behind me, all right, hold on. So, right here, whoop, you can see number 9, maybe hard to see. Mayan creation myths, creation and destruction of worlds. All right. So this is not uh something I'm kind of making up here. All right. That I think it's important to note that there you go. Now it's over my head. So it's important to mention that he did, he's got this kind of sort of talked about here. It's something that is within what he translated. I'll put it that way. All right. So as time goes on, what I have here is Amazon Books. It's a preview, so it doesn't go into detail. It doesn't talk about him translating this from page 330. Right. So I just want to say that. So I'm going to have to. This is going to be an ongoing investigation for the channel. Right. So on that note, mumbling here, I'm going to play some music. We're going to exit out of here soon, and thank you for coming. I appreciate everyone being here. Thank you.